So we're about verse 35 out of 42. We're on the wrap up here, and it's important to say this. So let me read it here. The action which fatally bound the self, the actions which fatally bound the self, are powerless to affect the capital S self. For action binds through ignorance, and the self, capital S, is free through wisdom. So, what must be understood out of this is that there isn't any way to tarnish the mirror. It isn't possible to no matter what one does, one harms oneself. It doesn't harm the reflection of what's higher. The capital S self is not touched in the way that our ordinary self is. In other words, again, it's not affected by our karma, by our personal actions in that way. If we can and are in alignment and manifest it, that's all to the good. Then we are working with it, and if we go against it, we just harm ourselves. So what comes up next is a couple of warnings, 35 through 40, about how one can be consumed by, even as one progresses along the path, one can be consumed by one's passions and desires, and warnings about the fact that one then can misuse these. What comes to mind is black magic versus white magic. You have black magic as a self-centered aims, that one does progress along a path, but then uses that for one's self-centeredness, for one's own gratification, and all of that is a total misunderstanding of the teachings, and it's just using them in a nutshell. Then the next warning is about despair, how that can drag one down, doubt, depression. Doubt is talked about through verse 40, and we have moments of clarity which are followed by conflicts and inner struggles, and then followed by ordinary existence, and we get lost and then have memory, but we are not connected at that moment, and begin to question everything that we do and the whole value of the teaching and whether we're on the right path. And he is suggesting that even at these higher levels, this is not that high actually, but even at a level away from ordinary existence where I have made contacts that it's easily possible to lose them again, and then I get, he's warning against all of the despair and the difficulty of dealing with depression and having been overcome, and how it would take out one's spiritual practices. And it's just a couple of warnings. And the end is verse 42, where it is saying that the only real remedy is the actual higher self. There isn't a way to think oneself out of it, or to understand it intellectually in some way. It is being touched And again, putting oneself in alignment and having that connection, that is the only cure, the only remedy that will have any real deep meaning to it. So we'll end with reading the last verse, 42, which says, "Therefore, with the sword of knowledge of the one self, capital S, cleaving asunder the ignorance-born doubt, dwelling in thy heart, be established in yoga and stand up, O Arjuna." That's it. He alone will stand rock-like in the self when selves are scattered like leaves by the burning winds of sorrow. That's the end of chapter 4.